Welcome back to the Simple Skating series. We've come so far since Pro Skater Portable, to the point that now we are moving away from consoles and looking at skating games on PC. You may be surprised to hear this, but there is quite a few skating games on PC. Last time around, I looked at some older skating games on PC, but this time around we are looking at what Steam has to offer. You may be thinking, oh no, here we go, some nice freshly taken out trash. Seeing as Steam tends to be unfiltered in its quality on games, but you may be in for a shock. Sometimes. I'll be looking at 5 games today, and they range in terms of quality, but it'll be fun regardless. Anyway, let's dive right into some skating games on Steam. First up is OlliOlli, a retro-style skateboarding game made by Roll7. Originally, it was planned to be an iOS game, but after talking with Sony, they moved away from iOS and moved towards releasing the game on the PlayStation Vita. It ended up being fairly successful and additionally got a version on the PS4, and it was also released on PC Steam. Now, I played this game once before for like 5 minutes and didn't like it. This time around, I gave the game a much fairer chance and tried getting used to the controls because they are a little strange. But after a while, I was getting used to them and was having fun. I think the controls have a fair bit of learning curve to them, but if I spent more time with the game, I think I'd get the hang of it eventually. I had the same issue back in the day from moving from Tony Hawk's series to Skate. So you have to flick the analog stick in various ways to do tricks, which is fine, but everything is dictated by the analog stick, even grinding. So it makes it even harder when the game has a landing mechanic, which depends on how well timed your pressing of the A button is. Don't press it at all and you always get a sloppy or even may bail, which then restarts the level. So, like I said, the controls are quite difficult to adjust to, but I think more time spent with it, you'd probably get used to it. So, I think all in all I enjoy this game now, but as I said, you have to be patient with the game and get used to the controls. Music is pretty good and uses licensed music. Also, the levels are quite creative. I think it's pretty good in my opinion. Now, what do I have to say about OlliOlli 2? A game I haven't tried before, right after playing OlliOlli? Not much, actually. In terms of difference with the original game, the sequel, at least for me, just felt like a 1.5 version of the original game. Besides new levels and slight difference in art style, the controls and gameplay are pretty much identical. I didn't play it for long, mind you, but it felt more like playing an expansion instead of a sequel. I felt more confident playing this than the original, but I think that's more down to the fact that the controls are pretty much identical, and obviously the more I played, the better I got at it. So that just carried over into the sequel. Don't get me wrong, I still think the game is great, just kinda have those expectations going in. Might even be better just to skip the original and go straight into playing this because, again, like I said, it's very similar, if not identical in terms of gameplay and controls to the previous game. And you're not really missing much if you just skip it and go into this game, so yeah. But all in all, I enjoy OlliOlli 2, and I could see myself going back to it and playing it again. It's actually a pretty good game, a lot of fun, once you obviously get used to the controls. And you gotta have that patience of getting used to the controls before you're able to really enjoy it. It seems somewhat common nowadays for a mobile game to be released on PC, but would you think releasing a skateboarding mobile game on PC with no changes whatsoever would be good? Well, you might be surprised. This is Epic Skater 2, and I went into this game with fairly low expectations, but for a port of an Android iOS game, it's pretty good. So the interface is atypically that of a mobile game, but once you get into the actual game, past all the really bad menus that exist, you find baby's first skateboarding game. And by no means is that a bad thing. In terms of controls, this game plays like a really basic pro skater. Like seriously, the controls to jump, do a kickflip, or grind are exactly the same as the Pro Skater series. The goal of each level is to reach the end similar to OlliOlli, and the level design is really simplistic, but considering this is aimed at children, I don't consider it to be a bad thing. Each level has its set of goals and collectibles, and in some parts of the level, you go into a slow-mo mode just to add a bonus cool effect to the trick you're performing. Graphically, the game is pretty good for a mobile game ported to PC, and you can even customize your character and buy more clothing options using the in-game currency, which appears as collectibles in each level. Yeah, I walked into this with very low expectations, but I came out pleasantly surprised. It's actually pretty good, you know, especially if you've never played a skateboarding game before. It's pretty good to just go into it and have it have very basic controls and very similar controls to the Tony Hawk series, and just get used to it. You know, if they took away the mobile style menus, then I don't see an issue with this game being a classic, really. So far, we've had pretty decent and even some great skateboarding games, but now we have to go into uncharted territory. Indie singular-person created skateboarding games. And we have two of them. I'm not trying to say that all one-person created games are bad, but these two in particular definitely are. Also, I think I'm the only person on YouTube talking about these two games, and I also the only one who's probably done any gameplay for them. The first is Pro Skater 2D, now named Skater 2D. I imagine he must have got a shitty email asking him to change it due to having no relation to that particular series. So what can I say about Pro Skater 2D? Well, just look at it. Looks like something you'd find on some free browser game website like Newgrounds or Miniclip. Or some game from the early 2000s, possibly. You might think I'm being a bit harsh on the art style of this game, but it just doesn't look good. The walls look bland, the ramps look like they're made in MS Paint, and the skater looks like he belongs in an NES game, so it doesn't clash well together at all. Now, for the gameplay and controls. The controls aren't bad, as long as you go into the options and remap them, because the default controls are atrocious. But even if the game functions, it doesn't automatically make it fun. The levels are just terribly designed. Just look at this. It's a fucking mess. Like, it's just bits and pieces of different things just placed randomly in the level. Like, there's no design gone into this whatsoever. He just put things in random locations. It's like, honestly, did he make the levels on Microsoft PowerPoint? Anyway, the music is also terrible because it's just one repeated track, which, you know, doesn't get really annoying really quick or anything. Because, you know, the track's length's like 30 seconds. It's besides the point. It's really annoying. I think, really, just don't bother playing this. I know it's cheap on Steam, and I mean it is cheap on Steam, but just don't bother. The second terrible skateboarding game, and the last we'll be looking at today, is Skateboarding Pro, which by no means is pro in any shape or form. The game was made on Unity and looks like a mobile game, but that doesn't automatically make it bad, as you could see from the previous game we look at, something, you know, Epic Skater 2, doesn't automatically mean it's bad. But you know what does make it bad? Terrible controls, a terrible tutorial, and terrible levels. Ouch. This game plays worse than Pro Skater 2D, and that was barely functional. So the game starts you on a tutorial, which is fine, but each time you bail, the level restarts? Not a big deal, right, if this was OlliOlli, but here the tutorial restarts too. Yeah. And what if I told you there was a lag into your button inputs? Or sometimes it just straight up ignores them. And then you'd be yeeted back to the beginning of the level again and have to suffer through the tutorial again. because you obviously, yeah, it's not reading your button prompts and it just ignores them, so you end up smashing into something and bailing. And then you get yeeted back to the beginning of the level, and then the tutorial bombards you again. Seriously, fuck this game. This game is also really cheap, but Pro Skater 2D is still cheaper. Let that sink in for a second there. You know, it's fucking hilarious. Don't play this train wreck of a game. Fuck this game. Well, that's the end of the video. We've had some good games, possibly even great games, and we've had some atrocious games. But be warned that this is not simply all that Steam has to offer here. We have even more skating games to look at on Steam, and we'll be getting to them in due time. My favorite game in this video was OlliOlli 2, and the worst game in this video was Skateboarding Pro. Thanks for watching, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you next time. See ya.